overall, it looks like the paper's saying that physical activity was generally linked to changes in well-being. So because this meta-analysis primarily relied on randomized controlled trials for their data, we can make a pretty strong causal relationship here between physical activity and people's well-being, particularly these older adults. Now, that wasn't necessarily as strong for the really old adults, but generally what we found is that frequent, regular physical activity, moderate intensity, and particularly aerobic style exercise was really good for their self-efficacy and their anxiety, but also for their well-being more generally. And this is a causal influence. Now, this study does have limitations, of course, like every study, because it excluded any clinical populations, which might be the people that get the most benefit from physical activity. There might be the people who have the least amount of current physical activity if you've, say, got metabolic disorder. They haven't really established what the minimum guidelines should be as far as time or duration or intensity of physical activity. Although it does seem like moderate intensity aerobic exercise is important, we don't really know how much people have to be doing to get a benefit here. And as we discussed in the well-being lecture right at the beginning, we don't really understand the mechanisms of why psychological well-being has been improved so much for some areas of their life. As we discussed right at the beginning of the course, we're not really sure of what's called the mechanism of action here. We're not really sure why physical activity or aerobic moderate level physical activity leads to such psychological benefits and why it's just, for example, anxiety rather than confusion. We also don't know how this compares to activities that don't necessarily have physical gains. Like, people have always talked about how things like meditation or engaging in things like chess and bridge, problem-solving activities, might also improve their well-being. So there's no direct comparison to active engagement in things that aren't physically active. Nevertheless, if we come back to Granny, it'd be really helpful if she started to do a little bit of aerobic exercise quite frequently. This would be good for her levels of anxiety and self-efficacy, particularly as she starts to age. To wrap up the lectures for this semester, we want you to try to learn to apply everything that we've got from our toolkit to some cases. And so what I'm going to do is show you the video of a case, and then I want you to try to identify which of the toolkit processes are going to be effective and how would you apply them to apply this case. We'll try to give you a little bit of feedback about the sorts of things we might have done, but otherwise we're going to try to culminate everything that we've done so far by using the toolkit on a specific person.